Warren Buffett shares his formula for long-term success. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. If you listened to our show on Tuesday, you didn't know it, but this one almost started this way. I feel like I'm in, what are you, a black hole, John? I've totally missed the cues and missed the stuff and missed the... I had the wrong stories for our show, but we fixed it. So welcome to the week.
We managed to cobble it together, right?
Yeah. So this is the Focus Group. We're here every Wednesday. Most of you time shift and listen to us other times. And of course, our audio stream is released on Saturdays. You can find your platform of choice. Please follow and subscribe there. You find out all about us at focusgroupradio.com. So how you doing, Mr. Nash?
I'm good, and I know that you are a fan, like Bob and I are, of CBS Sunday Morning.
Yes.
Did you happen to watch this past weekend the origination of the term blockbuster?
No, I missed that.
Okay, so you know how Hollywood always says the big blockbuster
Right.
films are coming out in the summer? It turns out that a blockbuster was the name of a bomb. They used to drop, like one of the big, like the heaviest explosives they would drop, and it's called a blockbuster.
A blockbuster.
Years later, Hollywood co-opted the phrase, and we think of blockbusters as being like Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Exactly,
that sort of stuff.
Gladiator, whatever. But actually, the whole blockbuster concept and conceit goes back quite a ways, and it goes back as far, obviously, as World War II or whatever. They were dropping these blockbuster bombs. But the article, the piece was funny because whoever did the reporting said Hollywood co-opted the word blockbuster
Right. Well, there was
and changed it.
Right, the Blockbuster video store, right?
Remember Yeah.
What would you have called it? The Atom Bomb video store? I don't know.
It was a funny, it was a good CBS Sunday Morning because they also profiled Christopher Nolan, who's the director coming out with Oppenheimer,
Right.
the movie about the guy that gave us the first nuclear bomb. And Nolan also is known for Tenet, a favorite science fiction film of mine that I still grapple with, Interstellar. So he's an interesting director.
Why do you grapple with it?
Interstellar had so many good things going for it. It does. But it involves black holes and warping time and what are the things that transcend everything. And in the movie, you're led to believe that love, a uniquely human thing, is the thing that transcends all of this. But anyway.
I thought love was what made Subaru a Subaru.
It does. It does.
That's a black hole.
Hey, you and I went through a lot of taglines. The beauty of all-wheel drive, driven by what's inside. Love, it's right.
Yeah, and that's when I started there. It was they were inexpensive and built to stay that way.
Yeah,
And then there was some other ones, which what to drive, which was the Wieden Kennedy disaster.
What was that? The Wieden and Kennedy time, was that when they did the book? Someone did the book Under the Sucker's Moon.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the time. Okay, so that, by the way, folks, that's a really interesting book, just about marketing and advertising in general, specifically about how you get a car company like this on the map in a country like the U.S., where we had the big three autos at the time, and Subaru kind of slides in.
And the improbable agency of Wieden and Kennedy, which were really just known for Nike.
Yes,
and Subaru hoped the Just Do It magic would
rub off,
translate over to what to drive. And it was a total disaster from start to finish. And then they ended up with Wieden and Kennedy of J.C. Penney and American Airlines fame, which ended up doing a good job. All the stars are lined up. Or as my boss used to say, even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then. With the success of the Outback, which really helped save Subaru and the brand and put the brand back on the map.
I remember those old ads. You actually used to use Crocodile Dundee.
Or Paul Hogan,
right?
Paul Hogan. I'm saying Paul Hogan. Yeah.
Paul Hagen's a different matter entirely. Our good friend Paul Hagen. We haven't seen him in ages. We used to come to the studio.
I saw he was at some piano bar singing recently. I thought, that's good old Paul. He's
did you go
back
with
to
me
it.
to see him sing down at the
Monster? Yeah.
He was fantastic. He
Slamming his hand on the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he should be on Broadway or something, right? He should be doing something like that.
Paul
spare
is
time.
a remarkable bundle of creative energy. I used to say to him when I had lunch with him, he was like truly a Renaissance man. He'd be working on a book. He worked on a play.
Every day writing a book.
Yeah, remember him sitting he used to do this a play every day, or
Yeah,
a play every
30
hour.
days, 30 plays.
30 plays, yeah. So I just love people like that who take up that mantle and just run with it. So
yeah, no, he was certainly, and funny too. I mean, he would sometimes say things that would just
very funny.
make us laugh. But the good old days. He did the game with us, which was kind of like that NPR game. Don't tell me or something.
That was on our Casual Fridays podcast.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which
we all had to chime in and I believe that he was the arbiter of who spoke first, and that sometimes caused.
We decided. I think a lot of times, he didn't. You got the pass.
And he gave you demerits for some of your
would get
bad
demerits or bad answers. Yeah, that's the Katie days.
Yes, indeed.
So, Mr. Nash, without further ado, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
This is a really short article, and it comes to us from Japan. And you'll know why it caught my eye the minute you see the headline. Scientists have developed an experimental tooth-growing drug. This was really... so a team of scientists in Japan is hoping to make their tooth-growing drug a reality in the not-too-distant future. Following promising research in animals, the group is planning to conduct small-scale human trials of the drug starting next year. Should everything go well, the treatment could reach the public by the end of the decade. So we're looking at like 2030. This comes to us from the Medical Research Institute Kitano Hospital in Osaka. And I'm not going to get into the science here, but basically they discovered a drug interaction which suppressed one thing and promoted another, and it has to do with proteins, antibodies, and the growth hormone. But this one scientist says the idea of growing new teeth is every dentist's dream. I've been working on this since I was a graduate student, one of the team leaders said. The drug will be tested in people with anodontia. I had heard of this once before, a rare genetic condition that leaves them unable to grow any teeth at all. Should the clinical trial process pan out, the lead scientist envisions that the drug could receive regulatory approval by 2030, initially as a treatment for children with anodontia between the ages of 2 and 6. But they think that they could actually extend this to adults that have lost teeth and people who have other things going on. And, they finished the article by saying, in any case, we're hoping to see a time when tooth regrowth medicine is a third choice alongside dentures and implants. So other parts of the article talk about this idea of, how sometimes people have to have crowns put in, or the tooth gets taken down to they put a post in and you have that other thing, the crown goes on. They're hoping that this could be done individually to regrow individual teeth. I don't really know how this works. I mean, it's from the jaw, the gum.
I was going to say, I wonder, do they pull the tooth and then you take a pill and a tooth starts growing again?
Apparently, the drug activates something, a protein and a protein and antibody and cell mixture already present in the body, which is specifically geared towards growth of teeth and enamel.
You don't grow a tooth in your tongue or something by accident.
No. Or like my big fat Greek wedding, where that one of the women claims that she had a twin in her neck. It was teeth and hair. Remember that from the movie? But the part that got me was, in a positive way, like looking at this as a third alternative to people that are losing or have lost their teeth, dentures, implants, or regrowing them. And I just remember my grandmother, when she used to visit us, this is why this probably caught my eye. I remember my sisters and I were fascinated when she would go to bed at night and she would take out her teeth.
Her false teeth.
Her false teeth. And she would drop them in the dentures. She'd drop them in the glass next to the bed. And we were like, we want this. Nana, we want your teeth. And my grandfather would take us aside and say, you don't want Nana's teeth. You want your own teeth for your whole life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the thing is, you say 2030. See, some of these things I read, it's like the high-speed rail that's going to go from D.C. to New York by 2050 or 20. We're going to be dead. We're not going to be dead by the time all this comes.
Agreed.
Another one of these predictions you and I can make. That's 100 years from now we'll be in space, little space orbiters around. Well, prove me wrong.
With another thing that Bob and I laugh about is sometimes we'll see ads on TV for hair growth products, like Nutrafol or something. And I got to tell you, if they really, really worked, we'd all know about it.
Yeah.
We'd all know about it.
Yeah. No, that's or the one they're all doing now, and I still don't know what the hell it is. Golo. I don't know what that is. Is that a pill?
I have no idea. Is that a diet
Everybody's
thing?
losing weight.
Yeah,
on Golo.
It's something
I don't know what it is.
behavioral, something
I don't know if
else.
it's a vitamin or what it is. I can't find anything about it. It's like the
this tooth thing
Scientologist.
reminds me of the time my dermatologist noticed a bald spot in the back of my head, and she said, "You should try Rogaine." This is years ago. I started doing Rogaine, and the hair grew back. And I said, "Okay, it's back. Can I stop now?" "Oh no, you have to do it for the rest of your life." I gave that up in seconds.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You got to do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, who wants that? I didn't want to massage foam into my head every morning. Anyway.
Well, yeah. No, I wondered. You're exactly right. If it really did work,
we'd all know.
It'd be a big yeah. But the tooth growing thing.
Interesting, if it could.
Yeah, because they've also talked about it with meniscus and repairing cartilage damage and all these other things.
Big one. Yeah.
So maybe it will. Mine caught my eye. I had seen this, and I didn't equate the two names. I knew the name Birkin very much.
Well,
but I didn't
who
know.
Who doesn't from Sex and the City and the famous bag, right?
And the Birkin bag. But I didn't know that it actually was named after a British-born actress who left England at 20 years old and went to France. And she was very affectionately known there as... She went on to become the darling of French cinema. Was also a singer. She appeared in over 70 films, and she worked with some of France's most esteemed directors. President Emmanuel Macron said, because she embodied the freedom, because she sang the most beautiful words in our language, Jane Birkin was a French icon. So she passed away last week. And there was a big story in the New York Times about her. And I was reading it, and then as I was just kind of scanning the obit, it said that although she was very famous within France, many people outside probably didn't know her well, beyond that. But what you do know her for was she was the inspiration for the famous Birkin bag, which, as John mentioned, are referred to, very famous from the French luxury house Hermes. And so it told a story about how the Birkin bag came about. Did you read this, or did you know how this happened?
No, I didn't get that far. So I was going to ask you, how did this come about?
So she was. This was from an interview she did with CNN with Christine Amanpour. She said that she had a very chance encounter. She was on an Air France flight to London, and sitting next to her was Jean-Louis Dumas, and he happened to be the chairman of Hermes. And so they're sitting there talking, and as she was talking, she had a Kelly bag, which was the Grace Kelly bag that Hermes is famous for. It's a smaller bag with the handle on it. And she was sitting there, and as she's talking to Jean-Louis from Hermes, all her stuff spilling out all over the airplane, falling out of the Kelly bag. So she looks at him and she says, "Why don't you make a bag that's 4 times bigger than this, and you can just leave it open? That way," and she took out the vomit bag in front of her on the plane and drew it on the airplane bag. It said, "Make this bag. Take the Kelly bag, make it 4 times bigger, have an opening in it, don't close it, and I put all my stuff in there and travel." So true to his word, he did. 1984, they released the Birkin bag, which is now recognized as one of the most coveted bags and rare to find, worth thousands of dollars, cost thousands of dollars to buy.
Waiting list, if I'm not mistaken.
Waiting list. So, talk about it, right? Can you imagine her saying there and her stuff spilling all? Why don't you make a bigger bag? Which reminds me of the sidebar of LL Bean when she brought the Hermes bag up to Bean and tried to get them to make something, and they said, "It's really off brand for us." So, remember that story?
Yeah, and wait,
the second or third wife.
The vomit bag. We all know what this looks like in the pocket, the seat pocket. It's that paper
right.
bag,
so as she
right?
says, as she's telling him this, that he needs to make this bag, she goes, "Here, I'll show you." And she takes out the vomit bag and she draws on it and says, "This is the bag you need to make." So Hermes ends up making the bag, and it says it's the single most highly coveted luxury handbag on the planet. Mm-hmm. A Birkin bag will range from $8,500 to $300,000 at the boutique, and it is known as the most expensive bag in fashion history. And so there are 2 primary drivers as to why the bag is expensive. It's quality and it's demand. So they said they share no expense creating the finest quality handbag, even the cheapest Birkin bag. So they use these exotic crocodile, ostrich, and alligator leathers that don't scratch. They're durable, very buttery feel. And they said it's estimated that the very best 10% of luxury leathers are chosen for the bag, and then only the best of those are used for the Birkin bag.
The best of the best.
The best of the best. And they said the bag's hardware, these are all done handcrafted, takes over 18 hours to make a bag. They use gold-plated or palladium metals that don't tarnish and adds to the glamour of the bag. They said it's very difficult to get them, and even if you go to the boutique, you're not necessarily guaranteed. They only make about 100,000 of them, and they've lowered the number. Pre-pandemic, they were doing 120,000 a year globally. Now they're doing about 100,000 total Birkins and Kelly bags. And they said that you have to have been a you had to have been a supporter or a shopper or consumer of Hermes over time. They says you simply can't walk into an Hermes boutique and purchase the bag. It requires becoming a regular customer of the boutique, building and maintaining a profile. You must have a history of purchases from the brand, of course, across many of the products, such as scarves, shoes, ready-to-wear, and home goods. And then you get almost invited to purchase a bag if you want. However, in New York City, they mentioned that there are a number of kind of fashion houses that are able to kind of buy some of these limited edition bags, and you could pay 3 or 4 times more overprice and get them in New York. There's a couple of websites they said where you can actually, if they have it in stock, you can contact one of these places on Madison Avenue, and they can get you a Birkin bag, but it's going to cost you. So I just thought it was
it's
what
brilliant.
a funny way to develop a bag, or to develop that iconic bag that happened because she was sitting next to him on the plane and all her stuff was spilling out of her Kelly bag. So,
and she was a famous actress. I love it. You know, the Birkin bag figured prominently in a Sex and the City episode where Samantha, Kim Cattrall, is the agent or PR person for Lucy Liu. And in the show, Kim Cattrall uses Lucy Liu's name to jump the list at Hermes and get the bag. And then later in the episode, she has the bag at this restaurant. Lucy Liu comes in. There's some kind of kerfuffle, and
Jumps the
Lucy Liu
list.
realizes
It's
she
my
used her
bag.
name. And Lucy Liu says, "You know what? That's my Birkin bag because you used my name." She takes it away. But the whole episode was around this crazy. And you know, when we saw it originally, we're like, "There's no such thing. There's no list for a bag." And guess what? Turns out there is.
oh yeah, and there's famous stories about Oprah. I don't know if it was the exact Birkin, but where Oprah had gone into an Hermes store in Switzerland, and they refused to even let her look at the bag. They didn't recognize it was Oprah. And it was a $38,000 bag that Tom Ford had some involvement with. And Oprah, it was behind glass. Oprah said, "I'd like to see the bag." No. So they wouldn't let her see it. Oprah, they said she asked 3 times to see the bag. They said, "No, here's something more affordable for you." And then another time she had gone into a store in Paris, and the same thing happened to her. But I think she was, going to pick up a bag for Tina Turner. Going to go over.
I just, when you said a bag that was worth $38,000, that is someone's salary for the year, right? I don't know. Like, I remember I have a friend who used to work at Barney's here in New York, and he was a manager. And after the recession, the Great Recession of 08-09 hit, they used to do these floor walks. So he's walking the floor with the manager, and the manager is basically berating everybody, like, why aren't we selling more of these bags? Why aren't we selling more of these things? And this guy was raised his hand and says, there's a reason for this. This $3,000 handbag is just as effective as the $25 bag you get at Macy's. When pragmatism rules,
Right.
then you don't buy a $38,000 bag, right?
But if you're
Unless you have
Oprah with
crazy
$3
money.
billion, she has $3
Yeah.
billion dollars, right? So 38,000 is
Drop in the bucket.
You're going to see Tina Turner.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
sweet
true,
Genevieve. You give her here. I picked this up for you over down the shop. Yeah. So but I wondered. I've seen there's certain men that carry around the Birkin bag. I've seen too. But I thought maybe you and I should get bags. Maybe you should go check out Madison Avenue, see what we can pick them up for.
Maybe I should go down to Canal Street. Where Bob and I used to go down to Canal Street to get knockoff watches and all this stuff, and just buy a knockoff and call it a day, right?
Is that
I mean, who's
still?
gonna
Is
know?
it still going? I heard they were trying to crack down on Canal
Yeah.
Street. It's still
It's
still
not
viable.
just canal. It's not just canal. There's these guys that have these sheets and towels they set up on the sidewalk, and they lay the bags out, and they have people on either end of the block looking for cops, and the tourists are buying these bags, and I want this one, I want this. It's a Gucci, it's this, and then there's someone whistles, and they roll up the towel.
Yeah, we used to
and
see
run
them
down.
around Bryant Park. They just swoop it up and take off, and then go to the next.
Tim, that's
funny.
exactly right.
I love New York.
Yeah, love it.
So that's quote awry. We've got our business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So it's also our friend General Motors former CMO Tim Mahoney's birthday today, which we've highlighted him before back in the day. We've actually had him on
July
the show.
19th.
July
Happy birthday,
19th.
Tim Mahoney, right?
Yeah. I don't think we've done this birthday before. Percy Spencer was born July 19th, 1894.
We have not. Whatever well you're going to, not bad. You've been
Yeah,
finding
I'm
a lot
using
of
a
interesting.
Canadian. I'm using a Canadian site.
Canada. Thank you.
Canada. So it's got a little different. The research is a little different, and so there we go. So he died at 76 in September 1970. American physicist and inventor. He became known as the inventor of the microwave oven. So he was born in Howland, Maine. His parents died when he was young. He was sent off to live with relatives, and never really had formal schooling. He worked at a local paper mill, and they started using electricity, which was a little known concept to everybody. And he was fascinated by this use of electricity at the mill. And so he tried to learn as much as he could about electricity, self-taught himself, and ended up being hired to install electricity in a plant that he was working at. He was one of only 3 people, even though he had no formal training in electrical engineering. So after working at the mill, he joined the U.S. Navy at 18 years old, and he was interested in wireless communications after he learned about the wireless operators aboard the Titanic. So he read about that, and then he became interested in this wireless communications. So while he was in the Navy, he made himself an expert on radio technology. He said, I just got a hold of old textbooks and taught myself while I was standing watch at night. He also subsequently taught himself trigonometry, calculus, chemistry, physics, and metallurgy, among other subjects.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't. I love when you do this litany of, and he's all self-taught, you said.
All self-taught. So
Wow,
he said by
okay.
1939, he became one of the world's leading experts in radar tube design. So he was hired by Raytheon, which was a contractor with the U.S. Department of Defense, and he was the chief of the power tube division. And so while he worked there, he developed a far more efficient way to manufacture magnetrons. And he had a reputation, and his expertise helped Raytheon win government contracts and also develop and produce combat radar. So he said a lot of this work that he did was of huge importance in World War II and became the military's second highest priority project behind the Manhattan Project. And so for that, he was awarded the Distinguished Public Service Award. One day, however, while he was working with the magnetrons, he was standing in front of an active radar set, and he had a candy bar in his pocket, and it started melting. So he couldn't figure out why the candy bar had melted, and they said he wasn't the first one to notice the phenomenon. Other engineers and folks at Raytheon, when they would get near this radar and stand next to it, the candy bar would melt or something in their pocket would heat up. And so he said he wasn't the first to recognize this, but he actually did investigate it. So he decided to experiment using food, and he started with popcorn kernels.
Oh, boy.
And so this became what they said was the world's first microwave popcorn. And another experiment, he had placed an egg inside of a tea kettle and put it in the magnetron. It was placed directly above it. As they were observing it, it exploded in the face of one of the coworkers, they said, as they were observing it. And so what had transpired from this was the first true microwave oven. And so he was able to make he did this enclosed metal box, and this magnetron emitted microwaves into this metal box without escaping. And he was able to control and have this safe experimentation. He placed various foods in the box and observed the effects and monitored it. So in 1945, Raytheon had filed this U.S. patent, and the very first microwave oven was made, and it was called the radar range.
The Amana, was it Amana radar?
So
range,
Amana, right? So you're right. So 1947, the first commercially produced microwave was 6 feet tall, weighed 750 pounds, and cost the equivalent, or cost $5,000 then, which would be about $70,000 now.
Right? 6
So
feet
this is why
tall,
we didn't
things
know
like
about it, and none of us had those in
Yeah.
our houses.
Yeah.
In 1967, they had what they called a relatively affordable microwave, which was the equivalent of about $4,500 now, that they sold for $495. It was a countertop microwave, and that was done and produced by Amana, which was a division of Raytheon. So because of all this, they had a number of labs and a number of institutes and honorary degrees and places named after him. And for instance, the Raytheon Integrated Defense System, which deals with radar systems, the building there in Massachusetts was named after him. And in the building there's the early radar range model that sits in the lobby across from the dining center. He was
The
married.
refrigerator size one?
Yep. He was married, had 3 kids. So here's the part that I just thought, boy, oh boy. So for all his work in developing the radar range and doing everything, he was Raytheon decided to give him a bonus or gratuity. So although he would receive no royalties because he was working on this while unemployed, do you want to guess what his gratuity was, what he was paid for appreciation of inventing the microwave?
Why do I want to say $500?
500 would have been generous. He got $2 for his invention. Spencer received no royalties, but was paid a one-time $2 gratuity from Raytheon, a token payment the company made to all inventors on its payroll if somebody was able to develop a company patent. Can you imagine $2?
$2 was what he got for inventing the microwave?
Yeah.
And you know, Tim, if they had the $2 bill back then, at least it would have been a one bill. You would have gotten this, oh my God.
Can you imagine?
As you were saying that, one part of me was thinking the executives probably thought he did this in our facility with our equipment.
Our money, yeah.
On our time and our money. So here's they might as well have given him a Snickers or something like that, right? I mean, it's...
Well, listen, I never understood. The guy who invented the guy who developed the Outback, which we just talked about earlier, which at Subaru essentially saved the company. You would have thought when he retired, you give him an Outback. And many people recommended it, but no. And I thought, it would have been such a nice gesture, or even, I don't know. I mean, why wouldn't a company do this sort of? I mean, to give this guy $2 for something that changed, right?
The world.
And he got $2. I don't know.
See, Tim, here is a prime example of not being on the proper side of coming up with something. The guy that did the pet rock made more money than the guy that invented the microwave.
Yeah. Yeah. But we've seen this, DuPont was this, right, with other things that were invented.
Yeah.
I invented nylon. Oh, good.
And they kept it. Yeah,
right.
they kept it.
You can leave a little early today. So
that's the best one. You could leave early on Friday. Thanks for inventing the microwave.
Thanks. Yeah. So that's a happy birthday to
good birthday.
Yeah, to Mr. Percy Spencer, and the developer, or the I guess inventor. The inventor of the microwave.
Tim, we could say father of the radar.
Father
range.
of the radar range.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
When did your household get one?
Oh, it's a big deal.
We didn't have one as kids.
No.
No.
Probably when I was
college. Were you in college when your mom got one?
I was going to say in college,
Yeah.
and then. My aunt and uncle gave me one when I moved out on my own. I got a little microwave.
Yes,
which was a big deal. That and a color TV I got from my parents as my little graduation gift, and because I was moving out to Philadelphia. But the microwave oven. I have a love-hate with the microwave.
Ditto.
It's
Ditto.
great for some stuff, but it really is. Somebody I remember saying, if you heat something up still the old slow way, it does taste better, and sometimes the food won't get mushy.
I maintain this, but in our household, if Bob's in charge, the microwave rules the day.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I'll put it in a pan. And Bob will say, you could be faster, put it in the microwave.
Yeah. The old Joan Rivers joke of Elizabeth Taylor standing in front of the microwave. Hurry up!
It's a good one. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's that. Our shop talk today is a very short one, and I laughed when I read this. This is very much a John Nash rule.
I was wondering if you would pick that
Oh
up.
my
Okay.
God, this is you written all over you. It could be the John Nash. It could be John Nash says you can avoid failure and achieve success by following this little known rule. But it was Warren Buffett. But I'll say it was John Nash. So everyone knows Warren Buffett, the legendary investor of one of the most successful. He's one of the most successful businessmen of all time from Berkshire Hathaway. And they said he has many valuable principles. There's one that is little known that stands out. And his rule was inspired by the biblical figure Noah and his ark. And he says it offers a powerful yet rare lesson in both investing and leadership. He calls it the Noah Rule. So do you want to explain what the Noah Rule is?
Yeah, the Noah Rule is simple yet profound. And this is why you probably laughed when you read it. Predicting rain doesn't count. Building an ark does. So this is one of Buffett's lesser known things. But the idea here is that you don't get credit for predicting the rain. You get credit and you succeed if you use that prediction to plan for the future, a.k.a. building the ark. Isn't this my little thing of plan for the worst and hope for the best?
Yeah, which is everything we do. It's plan for the worst, plan for the worst. Sky is falling.
Well, at least me. I mean, I've tried to adjust my thinking, but I read this, Tim, and I thought, oh my God, Tim must have found this and busted out laughing because
I did. I said, this is John's rules.
And then further down in the article, do you notice that they quote a book, and we interviewed the author of that book?
It's funny you picked that up. I read that Dory Clark, and
Yes, it was
so
Dory
she'd written the
Clark,
book,
yeah.
The Long Game: How to Be a Long-Term Thinker in a Short-Term World. And I said, oh my God, we had her on. I think we had her on sometime around 2013. Her book then was Reinventing You.
Yes.
I think that was it. Yeah,
Yep.
because I looked it up. She's written a number of books. But yeah, we had her on. I think our friend Doug had recommended her, Doug Spencer out of Boston. I think he recommended her to come on.
Yeah, he did, and she was a wonderful guest. And so when I saw that they referenced her book about thinking in the long game, I thought this is great because we like Dory. So behind all this, though, is the idea of adaptability and flexibility are crucial traits in the long term. And even at the end of the article, they says the Noah Rule underscores the significance of being mentally prepared for the worst. Instead of being swayed by fear and panic during turbulent times, Buffett encourages leaders to stay calm and focus on the long-term prospects of their business. And that can only be possible, in my opinion, if you've gamed out what are all the things that can go wrong. And let me think of some plans for them in case they do go wrong. And then you're not making panic-based decisions.
Right.
You're not moving left, right really quickly. You're still following a plan. But this is just another way of repackaging, as you said, plan for the worst, hope for the best.
I laughed too because I thought it's easy for Warren Buffett to say this when you've got, $100 billion in the bank.
Yeah.
Hold on and wait for long term. But if you just got, crushed, and I had a friend that invested in Enron, almost all of his money. And we know how that fell out, right? 15 years ago or so. And there really is no way to prepare for that if you had put all your, I guess what he's saying here is you should have diversified. You should have looked ahead to say, what if this collapses? I should have something, saved for the rainy days sort of thing, I guess. But this is planning for the future. And so, this is very much for you. Plan for the worst and expect
Hope for the best.
Hope for the best. Yeah. So that was Mr. Buffett's Noah Rule.
When you're talking about Enron, for some reason I was reminded of Downton Abbey, where Lord Grantham says, I hear about schemes all the time to make money. There's a guy in America called Ponzi. He's making money left and right.
The Ponzi scheme.
The Ponzi scheme.
Jeez. Well,
Oh, Downton Abbey. If you ever want a calming influence in our household, just turn on the Abbey. You have 7 seasons to choose from. Choose any episode. We all know what happens. You ever go to TV like that? You ever watch a show like I Love Lucy? You've seen it a million times, and it's just soothing television, right?
yeah, I've gone to Pluto and put I Love Lucy on, or Andy Griffith, or some of the old game shows. But there's a new. I was going to recommend you watch it. There's a new documentary out that's premiered on HBO, and I believe it's called Last Call, and it's about a serial killer that worked the townhouse in the Five Oaks in Manhattan in the 80s.
These piano bars, right?
Right, and one of the
I'll
stories
watch.
is around Tony Brooks. Now, it's there was a fundraiser at Tony Brooks' house anyway. The guy ends up dead. Long story, but they did finally find the guy. And,
Really?
which isn't a spoiler, but it's interesting to see. This was the 80s in New York. You'll totally get it right away. But the one thing that they really drove home was how the police department didn't know how to deal with particularly the gay bars. And they were using Lancaster because these bodies were either the people were last seen in New York, but these bodies were found in Jersey or in rural Pennsylvania. And those police had no idea how to deal or maneuver with New York. And they said the New York police had zero interest in trying to find this killer because it was out of their jurisdiction, quote unquote. So it was a fascinating look. It made me angry to a certain extent.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
And
so it's called Last Call, and it's on HBO.
Yeah.
And Tim, you had mentioned to me, I believe we started watching this on Netflix. It was a series about chimps and gorillas.
Ooh, yeah. Oof. Those chimps are nasty.
The King something, or
yeah,
we have it on our watch list. But
the
we
Chimp
began
Empire or something.
Yeah,
the Empire of the Chimps or Chimp Empire.
We began watching, and at first it's all really cute, and then they start describing what you're actually watching, where there's the alpha male, everybody's following him, or they're picking fleas off his fur just to keep him happy, because what happens if he gets mad? And then I remember you told me that there are scenes where it's like, hey,
it's violent, and they said it's like one of the animals obviously most like us. And they've now been known to storm into even gorilla families
territory
and kill them. And but I was unnerved by it because I thought they were so smart in knowing what they were doing and how they manipulated the other animals in order for them to capture them or whatever. I thought they some sort of secret language we don't know about.
Oh, no. You when you told that to me, we began watching. We kind of like hit the pause button because like, ooh, this is going to get deep.
Yeah. And then, I think there's 3 episodes. The second one, I think toward the end of it gets a little bit in the weeds, but then the kind of wrap up is, is the 3rd episode if you haven't got there yet.
And by the way, this series at the very beginning, they do it. Tim told me when he told me about it. They keep hammering home the fact that this is our closest relative.
Yeah.
And its behavior, the behavior of these animals, is literally not too far away from how we all behave. We might not think we do, but there is definitely parallels with the way they all moved in packs and the
Stay
way
off my lawn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The alpha male
friendship.
Yeah.
If you come up to my door, I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah. That's scary.
Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us on the Focus Group today. FocusGroupRadio.com is the website. You can find all our information there, including info about Tuesday's podcast, TFG Unbuttoned. If you are if you're already signed up on a streaming platform like Pandora or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're probably getting it already in your feed, and we hope you're enjoying it. We want to thank our partner, Deep Discount, here on the Focus Group. They make this possible every week. We'll be back with them next week with some great recommendations for some new titles. And, of course, Tim and I always look for things to share with you as well, just like we did now. Last Call and the thing on Netflix about nasty chimps. Hey, so summertime, folks, we like to leave you with a little advice. Don't text and drive, arrive alive. I saw it yesterday on the highway. A car in front of me was going 65, then it dropped down to 40. Why? Because the phone was up on the steering wheel and she was doing something and not paying attention to the road. I thought, I can't wait to get by this car, and I hope it doesn't swerve off and get into an accident, but there you go. Anyway, have a great week, and we'll see you in the new one.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.